Have you ever wondered what would happen if you delete your own Minecraft world while playing on it? Or what would happen if you delete Minecraft itself while playing it? Sort of. For context, recently I discovered an app that is called Unlocker. This app basically allows you to delete files without any interruptions because normally Windows doesn't let you delete files if they are being used by other programs. So I immediately got my video idea. In fact, I wanted to do a similar experiment a few months ago, but with unplugging the USB stick while playing Minecraft back when I saw this guy doing it, but with a game called Portal. In case you're wondering, here's what happens if you unplug your USB drive while playing this game. Sounds completely glitch out and subtitles as well. And so I got my inspiration from this guy back then, but for some reason I didn't get my hands on creating a similar video until recently I discovered the Unlocker app, and so I knew that it's finally time. So we're gonna do both unplugging the USB stick while playing Minecraft, which I think should count as a sort of deleting it, and also I'm gonna be deleting several files while playing the game as well, such as worlds, mods, resource packs, shader packs, and skins. So without further ado, let's start with the most interesting one in my opinion, unplugging the USB stick while playing the game. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna do my experiments on both the latest Bedrock and Java versions, but now let's start with the Java edition. Alright, so I got my multi-IMC launcher installed on my USB stick, and for some reason I couldn't run the game completely off the USB stick. More precisely, I couldn't just drag and drop the Java file onto the USB stick and manage to run Minecraft like that. My game simply couldn't launch for some reason, but it is what it is. And the first issue that appeared when I launched Minecraft was, where's my sound and what actually happened to the panorama? I don't know why, but whenever I launched Minecraft Java edition of my USB stick, it didn't have any sound and my panorama was broken for some reason. So I ignored these problems and created a new world, and then I unplugged the USB drive, and only half a second later, the game crashed. Well, that was expected. But wait, don't close my video yet. It'll get interesting in a minute. It is also important to mention that the game was running for half a second normally, I guess. So I wondered what would happen, but when I would move this time. So I plugged my USB stick again, launched the game, and started moving in my world, and then the game just crashed immediately this time. So it got me thinking one more time, if the game couldn't allocate the assets that are on our USB drive, what if the assets were in cloud? You've heard that right, because for this experiment I decided to quickly create a Minecraft server and do my last attempt on unplugging the USB stick while playing the Java edition of Minecraft. And the game just crashed immediately, again. So I decided to move on from the Java edition because unfortunately for me, the game wasn't showing any specific behavior or whatsoever when the USB stick was unplugged. But this was kinda expected though. So without further ado, let's move on to the Bedrock edition. And in case with Minecraft Bedrock edition, it is a little bit more interesting. After unplugging my USB stick in a single player world, the game started acting weirdly. This weird pop-up appeared half a second later, and when I pressed on an unnamed button, it seemingly brought me to the main menu, which looked like this. From now on, Minecraft Bedrock Edition only runs assets that were saved on my RAM. Not gonna lie, this actually looks kinda creepy though. And I couldn't really do anything in the main menu, everything was broken, so there is really nothing special to say, I guess. Except when I plugged the USB stick back in, and the buttons suddenly started sort of working, although they couldn't display any useful information or whatsoever, as you can see, and my game also crashed after I pressed one of the buttons. So I think the experiment was pretty successful, but let's just try multiplayer real quick like I did with the Java edition. And same as with the Java edition, I created a server for this experiment, and after joining it and removing my USB stick, the game didn't stop working, and it also did not crash or bring me to the main menu either. Instead, the game resumed, but with some glitches in the interface. First things first, half of the sounds and textures were either removed or they turned into these weird purple black squares, but the game was somehow playable, I guess. The chunks could load, I could fly, place blocks, except all of the UI was simply broken, but the game was playable as basically all the tasks were done in cloud and not on my PC. So this is what happens with Minecraft Bedrock Edition when you quote-unquote delete it while playing the game. But my experiments don't end here. What if we do not delete everything but partially? For example, while being in a world, delete the world folder itself. Let's begin with that. Alright, gladly for me, this time the game isn't running off my USB stick anymore because it was slow as hell, so we're gonna create a new world using the newest version at the moment of creating this video, 1.21.3, and we're in the game and everything is pretty normal except for the vanilla performance, which Mojang will most likely never fix at all. Now, without further ado, let's just do it. Select, unlock and delete, and our game started to show a bunch of errors in the top right corner, which was expected, but also surprisingly the game didn't crash. But when I tried to quit the world, my game was stuck on the saving world screen, so I had to manually close it through the task manager because normal closing didn't work either. Now the next experiment that I'm going to do is I'm gonna install a few mods, which for me seemed pretty interesting to try to delete them while in game. In total, I picked 4 mods to see how they would behave after deleting them. The mods that were installed are Larion, a mod that changes the world's generation by a bit, so I was wondering if something interesting will happen to the world generation after deleting the mod, but having the game running in a world. Ambient sounds, it's a really simple mod that adds immersive sounds to the game. I was basically wondering if something special will happen to them. Not enough animations to see if deletion will somehow affect the animations that this mod adds. And lastly, iris shaders to see what will happen if I delete the shaders mod while playing with shaders. I'm also gonna do the opposite, which means firstly deleting the shaders while playing with them. Now that you know which mods I have used for testing, let's start with the simplest one, ambient sounds. After deletion, the sounds were simply cut off after like a second, but what really surprised me is seeing this mod in the mods tab in Minecraft even after the deletion. But I think it's because whenever a Minecraft mod is installed, it puts itself in multiple folders and it's not being used by only one of them because eventually the settings menu of the mod remained as well. Now let's hop onto the iris shaders mod. At first I tried to just delete the shaders while playing with them, and unfortunately for me, the game wasn't showing anything special. After deletion of just the shaders, the game was working just fine, but after I reloaded the shaders by pressing the R key, the shaders disappeared from my screen and menu as well. And by the way, the same thing happened with resource packs. After deletion, they worked normally, but after reloading them, they simply disappeared. So now let's test the iris shaders mod itself. I re-enabled my shaders and deleted the mod, and somehow the game or the graphics weren't even hurt. But I couldn't access the settings menu within the menu tab anymore, but the game seemed to work fine. I expected that the graphics would look really messed up, but no, it just works. And just for fun, I've pressed the R key, which should have reloaded my shaders after pressing this key, and my game just crashed. So now I'm gonna delete the world generation mod and see what will happen to the generation while in a world. I was really curious to test this one, so I created my world and the generation was a little bit different. It was split onto like islands, I don't know, which looks pretty amazing in my opinion, but we're here to see what happens after deleting the mod. Surprisingly, the world or Minecraft didn't crash, and the terrain where the new chunks were generated looks a little bit different, so I assume that after deleting the world generation mod, Minecraft started to rely on the vanilla generation instead of the non-existing one. So let's just try not enough animations mod real quick. As you can see, I can switch items or climb a ladder with the upgraded animations, and after deletion, these two animations resumed to work just fine. However, after I grabbed a map which should have the upgraded animation taken from this mod, the game just crashed, and so we're done. We're done with the Java edition. However, in case with the Bedrock edition, there is nothing really special to say here because after deleting the worlds file, the game just crashed. And after deleting the resource packs file, the game also just crashed. And lastly, when I deleted the skins folder, nothing really special happened. The game just resumed working. So I think it was enough for me and enough for you, I hope, to understand what actually happens to the game when you delete several game files from it, or when you straight up temporarily remove the game from your computer. Some might have expected the game to crash, but in this case Minecraft Java and Bedrock Edition were actually really different. For example, the Java Edition will just crash immediately after removing it, while the Bedrock just starts acting weirdly. And for some reason, Bedrock Edition crashes when removing several files from it and Java doesn't. It just depends on the file that you're deleting. So in my opinion, it was a pretty interesting experiment, and I also want to say thanks to Juko for giving me a kind of inspiration for this video. And if you have watched to this moment, then make sure to subscribe and turn the subscribe button gray instead of white. And yeah, subscribe.